In the summer of 1993, two big properties were lined up to take the box office by storm, and one of them had a huge box office star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the man, the actor, the legend, responsible for Terminator, Conan, Kindergarten Cop. Honestly, pretty much everything he touched turned to gold, and toy companies saw that as toy gold. The idea that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to star in a family-friendly action movie that was not rated R screamed for a toy line. And it's no shocker that Mattel quickly signed on board to pump out a ton of toy product, from figures to vehicles to games to action figures. This was going to be their surefire bet. Everyone was talking about Last Action Hero and how great it was going to be. Of course, there were other movies coming out that summer, and the other one that had a big eye from the industry was, of course, the dinosaur movie that Steven Spielberg was producing. Now, while people were excited about this, there was definitely hesitation from a merchandise standpoint. Dinosaur movies in the past had been, well, not, huge dinosaur hits. They were kind of like the way pirate movies were looked at before Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp came along and changed the genre. So, when it came time to choosing which movie to back from a toy perspective for a company like Mattel, it was a very, very easy choice to go with Last Action Hero. And then Jurassic Park came along and showed the world what a real dinosaur movie could be like by having dinosaurs actually move and act like real dinosaurs and introducing CGI to the world. And while Jack Slater and Last Action Hero would go on to get, shall we say, cult status among its fans, it was not the huge box office smash. In fact, it literally got smashed by Jurassic Park in a big, big way. Jurassic Park became the huge moneymaker of the year, changed movies forever, introduced CGI, and while Jack Slater's fans did do their best to promote the film as being an antidote to dinosaur movies, their dreams were destroyed in a stampede of dinosaur toys. So this wasn't just about two movies going head-to-head, it was also about two toy companies. In this case, Kenner versus Mattel. Kenner signed up for the Jurassic Park line, while Mattel, as mentioned, was backing Arnold Schwarzenegger and his Last Action Hero family-friendly, non-R-rated film. And while the toys were pretty good, when you have a poor box office, even if the toys are amazing and cool, it can definitely lead to poor toy sales. It's really all dependent on that box office gross and how many people go to see the movie, especially kids. And Jurassic Park was the winner in the box office. But there was a lot of hesitation to doing a toy line for Jurassic Park. So even when Kenner was reviewing it, looking at past dinosaur toys, well, there was a big problem. You see, unlike Jack Slater and his trademark red shirt and sunglasses, dinosaurs were in the public domain. They were more or less animals, and they were extinct animals. And despite what Ian Malcolm and Hammond argue about in the first film, you can't just slap a copyright on a dinosaur and patent it and put it on lunchboxes, because anyone can do that. And that was the big, big concern from the toy industry when looking at the two licenses. It wasn't just the star power of Arnold Schwarzenegger, it was the fact that dinosaurs had been done as toys. A ton of toys. Mattel had even done their own dinosaur toys. Almost everyone had taken a crack at dinosaur toys in one way or another over the years. And even though the greatest dinosaur toy line of all time had already been done, and had amazing action figures wearing colorful t-shirts and not the mama sound phrases, okay, I'm just kidding. But come on, who doesn't love the Dinosaurs TV show and toy line, right? Anyone? Anyone out there? Alright, well, their biggest competitor was actually Schleich, which most people know as the makers of Smurfs. They're also the makers of an incredible line of dinosaur toys, and they have only gotten better over the years. In fact, the stuff that they're putting out these days is off-the-wall crazy. It's a little expensive for your casual fan and collector, but that's because every single figure is hand-painted with extreme detail. If you like dinosaur toys, I honestly can't recommend them enough. So the idea of doing a mass-produced dinosaur line that was going to be sold in big box stores and toy stores, back when we had Toys R Us and Child World and KB and all of that fun before the 2000s hit. Well, it was a big bet to do a dinosaur line because anyone could do a dinosaur line, and they weren't that expensive to produce, especially if you were going to do them relatively cheaply, not the Schleich ones that had all the paint, but just dinosaur toys at market. They could be done extremely inexpensive. A lot of the molds were already available. And if Kenner was going to unleash a stampede of dinosaur toys and get people to buy theirs instead of the existing dinosaur toys that were already at market, they needed a secret weapon, and they weren't sure what to do. Well, along comes Tom McGrath. You might remember Tom McGrath from such toy lines as Batman and such Spectre Creative videos as the Tech Shield Batman video. If you haven't seen this one, definitely go check it out. In it, I talk about how Tom came up with the idea of doing Batman in a non-traditional color and really changed the way variants are done forever. He didn't introduce variants, but he changed the way variants are done. Well, Tom had another great idea. So when posed with the problem of how in the world does Kenner differentiate their Jurassic Park dinosaurs from all the other dinosaurs at market, many of which are less expensive, well, he came up with the JP logo. While you didn't really see this in the movies, it became an intricate part not only to the toy line, but honestly to saving the toy line and making it work at retail. In essence, all of the dinosaur toys that came out from Kenner were going to have a mark on their body that indicated that they were part of the Jurassic Park line. Obviously, the in-continuity rationale was these dinosaurs were in a zoo, or a park, if you will, so of course they would need to be stamped by the zoo owners in order to track all their animals. And this was, sort of part of the movie as well, even though it was more about Lyson. But the point is, the JP mark that Kenner was able to develop under Tom's idea was absolutely revolutionary. It ensured that kids were going to want the Jurassic Park dinosaurs, not just any dinosaur. And they did a heavy advertising campaign noting if it doesn't have the JP mark, it's not official Jurassic Park merchandise. And guess what? It worked. It worked in spades. It was huge. Because while you could get dinosaur toys from tons of different companies, now there was a difference between the prehistoric dinosaurs that roamed the earth 65 million years ago and the official recreated, bioengineered, Kenner-produced, movie-authentic dinosaurs from Jurassic Park that had a JP logo. The second revolution was the Dino Damage. What's that? Well, you're looking at it. See the blood and the bone coming out of the T-Rex there? While you didn't really see this in the movie, the Dino Damage feature, where you could pull apart part of the dinosaur's skin or chest, body, and reveal blood and guts and bone underneath, became a copyrighted feature called Dino Damage that also was designed specifically to differentiate the official Jurassic Park toys from all the other dinosaur toys at market. No one else had this feature, so between the JP tattoo and the Dino Damage mark, you knew you had an official Jurassic Park dinosaur, and Aunt Susie wasn't just getting you some random dinosaur off the shelf. And it worked. Kids wanted dinosaurs that were official, and they required the JP logo and the Dino Damage mark. They didn't have these, kids didn't want them, and it led to huge success for the Jurassic Park line. It went on to do, obviously, lots and lots of dinosaurs, and there were dinosaurs with electronics, there were dinosaurs with articulation, and there was a huge toy line of figures as well. And while granted the figures didn't exactly have the full likeness of the actors, for kids and for a kid-aimed line, and this is before adult collecting really became a huge thing, it was probably one of the last all-kid lines before adult collecting became big, and having things like a playset and vehicles and dinosaurs to capture and chase and shoot projectiles at was good enough. Not just good enough, it was great. It was exactly what kids wanted, and they could have humans riding around in vehicles, capturing the dinosaurs, and as long as they had that JP mark and that Dino Damage, they knew they had something official. And it made the Kenner line truly rule the toy aisle, not only because of the box office, but the toys itself and the inclusion of these unique features that differentiated them made them toys that every kid who was into the movie wanted to have. And as the movie wound down, much like Kenner had done with Star Wars, they tried to find ways to keep the line going for years to come. So while the first line featured characters directly from the movie, and again, the likenesses weren't exactly spot on. I don't remember Tim being that buff or even wearing that yellow outfit in the movie. But, oh, I'm sorry, this is Muldoon. This is Tim. See what happens when I record after I've edited? So, yeah, but still think, Tim, buff, the reference and the joke still works. So after the movie, new themes of figures were created, like the Dino Raiders, which were, guys who were trying to steal the dinosaurs. And then, of course, you had the less dangerous sounding Dino Trackers, again, reusing a lot of parts from the previous figures. And then the Evil Raiders, because, it wasn't enough that they were Dino Raiders. Now these ones were Evil Raiders. And honestly, they were all repaints of the same thing. A lot of the figures got reused over and over again until the sequel came along and infused new, shall we say, dino blood into the line. The sequel movie brought about a whole bunch of new characters that could be made as figures, again with questionable likenesses, but this was the early 90s, and toys in the 80s and 90s weren't exactly known as having what are called portrait sculpts that look exactly like the actors the way they do nowadays. I mean, heck, Hot Toys thrives on that, where you can get lifelike poses and lifelike replicas of actors' faces. The next step in Kenner's line was the Chaos Effect line. So after the movies, to keep the line going, very, very kid-friendly decos of the dinosaurs in all sorts of outrageous, bright, huge, bold colors were added to the dinosaurs, and the excuse that it was part of the genetic engineering worked well, so now you could sell dinosaurs in all sorts of crazy colors. Then the final movie in the original trilogy was able to hit, and once again gave a little bit of a boost. And you still had pretty much the same type of figures, and a lot of them reusing the same molds, and you still saw the Dino Damage and the Jurassic Park logo on all of the figures, although now it was a JP3 logo. The final attempt with the pre-Jurassic World line was a Toys R Us exclusive line. You still see the JP logo, but everything was managed and merged under a Jurassic Park line. Not movie specific, but just the Jurassic Park world, and again, reusing molds and tools from previous lines. And then along came Jurassic World, resetting the franchise. And while people were excited about it, the last two movies only performed okay compared to the first Jurassic Park. So the idea that this was going to become the highest grossing movie of the year wasn't really expected, and Hasbro, who now owned Kenner, just put out a handful of toys, mostly dinosaurs, and nothing that was too revolutionary. And to say that the studio was a little bit caught off guard by this is almost an understatement, because here they had one of the highest grossing movies of the year, and their toy partner didn't make much stuff. Versus other toy partners like Lego were really expanding Jurassic Park into other avenues and other areas of the toy store, into different aisles, and showing that Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, was now an evergreen line that could really dominate. So the big switch happened. The license moved from Hasbro to Mattel, which is ironic, since Mattel didn't want to have anything to do with the original toy line because they didn't feel dinosaurs would sell, and bet everything on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mattel would go on to make some of the best Jurassic World, Jurassic Park toys, including gigantic toys like their, is it a Brontosaurus, a Apatosaurus? I forgot what they actually called this on box, but, the big sauropod. And for the first time, Mattel made collector scale figures, both in 6-inch and 3 3/4, where you could get figures that were in highly articulated, highly detailed, with tons of accessories, and actually looked for the very first time in the toy line's entire history like the actual characters. And, hey, now you can start your Seinfeld toy collection too, right? Or your sexy, sexy Ian Malcolm. I mean, come on. That's a toy everyone's got to have, right? They called it the Amber Collection, similar to Star Wars Black Series or other 6-inch lines with a one-line description. And this was, again, the first time not only the characters looked like the actors, but you could recreate moments in the film, even things like swappable heads and different parts for specific scenes. And it wasn't just the figures, the characters, the humans. The dinosaurs, who were the real star of the franchise, also got fully articulated, collector-friendly figures that actually looked like the dinosaurs in the movie and weren't just done in colorful chaos effect deco. Mattel was also able to expand the aisle reach even further by doing a line aimed at the younger child in the Imaginext line. And by now, Jurassic World and Jurassic Park had become such a mainstay that the JP mark was no longer needed to get it going, which, again, Kenner created back in the day. Even the 3 3/4 kid-oriented line was still very authentic, and you actually could finally get a Alan Grant that looked like the actor, as opposed to all the previous Kenner figures, which were kind of suffering from that late 80s, early 90s, were not quite going to sculpt the actor's likeness perfectly. So, irony is not without a sense of fate. Or is it fate is not without a sense of irony? Well, I guess either way works. The struggle to create an iconic way to sell dinosaurs to kids and compete with Mattel's line by creating the JP logo and the Dino Damage, and using these to brand the toys so kids would want them over other dinosaur toys to compete directly with Mattel's Last Action Hero, wound up building the Jurassic Park/Jurassic World brand and line so big that Mattel eventually was able to benefit from it by making some of the best Jurassic Park toys ever. So that's an interesting toy story into itself. How Kenner's attempt to squash the competition wound up, in a way, building the brand and making it ripe for Mattel to take a bite of eventually. If you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, let me know. Give it a like and a subscription because it tells YouTube to share it with other people, and it's important to share toy knowledge because toy knowledge is love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Green Lantern toys.